Hey there, listeners. This is Terry Cowley, your host of the R.M.Williams Outback podcast. Thanks so much for being here and welcome to Season 3. In the New South Wales Riverina, the 150-year-old Toganmain Woolshed, one of the largest in Australia, is being lovingly restored by a community of volunteers. Now, that statement, which is an introduction to one of our stories in issue 162 of Outback magazine, sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But as a person who lives in a rural community myself and tries to get involved in positive community projects, I was really taken with this story. I mean, how do local people with pretty much no funding and just a motivated attitude restore a 73-metre long and 24-metre wide woolshed that's 110 stands deep and was once the site of an Australian record? 202,292 sheep shorn by 92 blade shearers in a single shear. That was in 1876, by the way. When photojournalist Georgie Mann went to Toganmain to cover this story for us, she found Christine Chirgwin, a local councillor with a reputation for getting things done, at the centre of the action. Christine joins me now to talk all things Toganmain. Hello, Christine.
Hello, Terry.
Can you take me back to when you first became aware of the sad state of Toganmain, this iconic Australian woolshed?
I first saw it myself in 2004. I was working for Elders and I had to go out there to do a job with one of the stockmen. And I walked into the shed and the first thing that struck me that looked like an upside-down ship. So I wasn't surprised to hear that shipbuilders actually designed it and built it. But then I didn't sort of know much about it until about 2018 when a gentleman from Woolshed, who we have a mutual friend, and he got in touch with me because I was on council and said that they'd formed a committee to try and get a subdivision done with the woolshed and the precinct, and would I encourage council to support it, which I said, of course I would. So that was fine. And then the following year he came back to me and said, look, Macquarie Bank have said that they won't go ahead with the subdivision unless there's local support. So I went, oh, okay. So we called a public meeting in Darlington Point. We formed a local committee and my son-in-law is the chair. I'm the secretary. My niece is our public officer. My daughter is our treasurer. So it's all very family orientated.
Family affair, yes.
And started with a committee of about 6. We're now up to about 12. So people have moved away and other people have come in. So, well, we went out there and had a look and said, okay, this is good. This is not too bad. We can do this. But then we didn't get to see the shearing shed again for another 3 years. And in the intervening period, we'd had a lot of rain, a lot of tin had gone off the roof, the shed had got flooded, cattle had been in it, and we walked back in and were pretty devastated actually to see how deteriorated it had got. But we just took a deep breath and said, well, we'll just do what we can. So we started with a few volunteers, probably about 20. We had about 2 or 3 working days. And you'd have about anywhere between 6 to 12 there at a time. And then Landline came and did a story and then the volunteers exploded. So we got all the trades that we needed, the builders, the plumbers, the electricians, just people who had experience, and we just got in and did what we could.
Fantastic. So a bit of context for people who may not know about Toganmain. It's got a really amazing history. So it's perched on the banks of the Murrumbidgee, east of Hay. It was built by shipwrights, as you said, in 1875, one of Australia's grandest surviving woolsheds and still the largest in the Riverina. What more can you tell us about, Christine, in terms of why it was important to save this woolshed?
It's represented in our folklore, and I think because it is the 4th biggest in Australia, and so many of our shearing sheds have been knocked down or just deteriorated to the extent where they are just not viable. And it's on the Sturt Highway, so it's visible to the road. We aren't far from Hay, which has sheer outbacks, so it's a great fit to have something as magnificent as the Toganmain Woolshed to tell the story of our pastoral history. Unfortunately, the village that went with it and the jetty, that all got knocked down, so really we're just so lucky to get the shearers' quarters and the shed before they too got knocked down.
You probably heard a lot of shearers' stories and what it was like to shear there.
Oh, absolutely. And I think for me, probably that gave me the most pleasure was the people that came back who had associations with Toganmain. They'd either shorn there, they'd been brought up on the property, they had connections. And so many of them were so emotional, like there were tears. People were so thrilled to think that the shed had been not let go and people were doing something to try and preserve it, because it was, in a sense, that's preserving their history as well.
It's almost like what they did matters and enough that it was preserved, yeah.
Because there's actually 3 graves sites on the property. We know where 2 of them are. We're not sure where the 3rd one is. We just need to do a little bit more research on that. But we would like to, down the track, get permission to take care of the graves, because a lot of local families have family members buried there. So
our story in particular quotes Dougie Newton, who was 20 when he first shore in the shed, and he's quoted as saying, "It felt a bit like shearing royalty. This was real shearing, full boards, fast runs. Coming from down south, it was exactly the work he'd dreamed of," and he really speaks of it with reverence.
Oh, that comes through from all the shearer stories and the wool classes, rouseabouts, cooks. Toganmain, by all accounts, was a very happy shed. No, there's no negative comments about it. People were happy to shear there. They loved their time there. There's a lot of fabulous stories and poetry that's come out of it. So it's a huge part of our pastoral history that we've now retained, not just in the shed in the precinct itself, but, with the stories that we've accumulated with the book. So we've got them.
So it must have been hard to see how it could be restored when it was, at its worst. It would have been easy to throw in the towel is what I'm getting at, I guess.
Oh, honestly, we walked in the shed and the floor had sunk nearly half a metre between the main shearing board and the wool room. And there was so much tin off, and we just walked in and walked out, basically, and walked back over to the shearers' quarters and thought, well, we can start here and we'll work on the quarters. But the biggest thing we had to do was weatherproof the shed. So in Easter of 2024, we hired an 80-foot boom lift, had a big working bee, and put all the tin back on the shed. And that night there were big sort of a windy storm came through, and that's the first time we've ever been out there, and there was silence and there no tin flapping. So that was very gratifying. And then from there we sort of went back into the shed to see what we could do, and there was a lot of broken timber in the roof. We thought, we'll try and fix it. So we ordered some wood and we were going to fix it, and then we looked at the floor and we went, no, can't do anything until this floor's done. So we've got to work from the bottom up. So then that was before Landline, and then Landline aired, and we got the help of a builder from Tea Tree Gardens up at Port Macquarie and another builder from Albury, and they came over and they instructed.
And they did all this for free?
Yes.
Wow.
Retired. They're all retired, and they just came up and stayed and said, well, this is what we're going to do and this is how you're going to do it. And they instructed while all the others got underneath and got the jacks and jacked it all up and started re-stumping to lift it all up. So
amazing. Can you tell me about the role of heritage architect Peter Freeman?
Without Peter, we wouldn't have the shed at all. He was the first one to say that if we don't do this, we're going to lose it, and it's too precious to lose. He's the initiator of all this, and we're just carrying on his dream, basically, and he's a huge support. He zooms into all our meetings, and he's just a fantastic mentor and support to us.
He apparently had long admired the shed's unusual design and its inverted ship structure. So, yeah, you really wanted to see it saved. So how did you get people involved? I mean, you've talked about the media, and well done to Landline for shining a light on that at a crucial time. But more than that, how did you get like local people? I'm imagining you used a lot of your local connections.
Oh, absolutely. At the first big community meeting we had, there were probably about 60 people there. It sort of filtered out from there. But then that was in 2019, and we really couldn't do anything till 2023 when Paraway and Macquarie gave us permission to be on the property.
So why did it take so long to get that permission, Christine?
Because it was going through the subdivision process, and we weren't allowed on it until that was a fair way down the track. So, and then from there, it was just, as you say, we used local contacts. I did an interview with ABC Riverina, and we got a few on board from that. And I think Doug saw us in the Weekly Times and got in touch. But he's been to every single working bee, every single one.
So you mean Doug Newton?
Yes.
The former shearer. So a band of volunteers began to form, shearers, as we've just said, farmers, historians, neighbours, all wanting to help preserve this history. And you call yourselves the Friends of Toganmain. And you made an application to petition the land from, you've talked about the owners, from the owners. And, titles for the Woolshed precinct were eventually secured. That sort of sounds simple, but I'm guessing it wasn't.
No, it was took a long while. I'm not sure. Peter first saw it about the same year I did, 2004. I think about 2014 they formed the initial committee, and that included people like Charles Massey, Ian Itter, a couple of people from Cootamundra and Woolshed, but they were all over the place, whereas we're localised and we keep in touch with all of the ones that want to stay involved. But, yeah, they started the process of the subdivision, but it just took an awfully long time, 10 years, in fact.
So this is something that comes out strongly in Georgie's story, and I guess it's not a surprise, but with any groups like this, you know, it really is about the people, isn't it? I mean, it's about the place, but it's also about the people and the connections and friendships and good times you have together while you're trying to achieve this great thing.
Oh, yeah. Don't bother turning up to a working bee without a sense of humour. We do have a lot of fun and we thoroughly enjoy each other's company. We've made some fabulous friends out of this. The interesting thing is all the connections. You don't realise how small the shearing world is until you get some of these old shearers together. One story is I had two older shearers in their 80s cleaning one of the shearers' rooms, and they got chatting. They didn't know each other, but all of a sudden they knew all these people in common. So during lunch, they would sit in Chips's caravan and dial up all these people that they knew to put it on speakerphone in the middle of the table and chat.
Fantastic. So you don't have a background in sheep?
I'm an ex-farmer, yeah, so we had our own rice and sheep farm. I've just always loved the whole wool industry, shearers. My brother has another historic shearing shed on his property. I've just always loved everything about shearing and wool. So there's no biggie to just say, well, I'm going to be involved with this.
Did you grow up with that sort of background?
Yeah, I come from a farming family. Dad always had merino sheep.
Was that local?
Yes, in Coleambally. Originally from Woolshed, but in Coleambally then.
Okay, so treading the boards isn't exactly an alien thing for you.
Oh, no, when we had our own place and even when Dad, when we were doing our own shearing, I would do the rousing or something like that. So I don't think I ever want to go have shearing, but...
Yeah, fair enough. I believe a cake decorating course you did might have come in handy.
They had a seniors week here, and I took my mother down to this. One of the local ladies run this cake decorating course, and she was showing us how to decorate cupcakes. And then the next working bee, I got up there with Doug, and I had the silicone gun. So the same principles apply: start big and work small.
So you were able to bring some of your cupcakes to some of the working bees, perhaps?
Oh, I bought some of the cupcakes down to the working bee for sure.
Okay. And I don't know that we've done justice to the work that's done, because I'm imagining that a hell of a lot of elbow grease that went on from lots of different people, and And, of course, you're dealing with heritage, aren't you? You can't just slap anything up here, there or anywhere.
No, we can't. And apart from the shed itself, the other big heritage item there is the big hearth in the old kitchen. It's absolutely huge. I've had a lot of people see it, and nobody's ever seen one bigger. And we are so lucky to have the man still alive. His name is Jim Marr. He's 101. He cooked in that kitchen in 1956, and he was able to give us the story of what he cooked, how he cooked in it. That's just magic to have that.
Eventually, you start to imagine maybe you could get together for a celebration when when you've done all of this work. And of course, this did happen in early June. After months of hard work, you got everyone together and the shed came alive again somewhat. Can you tell us about that event and that weekend, really, wasn't it?
It was the weekend. We made it the whole weekend. We had open days for people to come and look at the shed. We had markets there. But when I first came up with the idea, I was aspirational, verging on delusional about having a dinner down the board, but I just thought it would be, I could just see it. It would be just magical, and I kept hoping that we were going to be able to do it. And at Easter, when we finally got the board finished and we jacked it up and everything was level, I thought, yeah, this is doable. Anyway, we're lucky enough to have a couple of volunteers from down in Victoria, Macedon. And Kylie's day job is she fits out kitchens and that for the Grand Prix, the Flemington races, the Australian Open. So she's an event organiser. So with her expertise, we got it done, and we had this dinner, and it was just amazing. And we had music, and the one thing I didn't expect was to everybody get up and dance. So that was fabulous.
What sort of people came to the celebrations?
Oh, from everywhere. Some of the old committee came, Peter Freeman, which was lovely. We had David Sutherland and his wife, Jenny, there with the National Trust. They're helping us out. And just ex-shearers, volunteers. Oh, they came from all over. We had a couple of gentlemen that flew in especially for the dinner and the day from Western Australia. So,
wow. I understand that your focus is more on partnerships than ownership. Is that how you'd put it?
Yes, we need partnerships to progress the preservation and restoration. So we're looking, hopefully, if we can get a corporate sponsor that can give us some funds. The hardest thing with grants is they're project specific. There's things that come up that we need to spend money on, and it comes up out of the blue, and you just think, oh, God, that we've got to try and find some funds for this. We've now got a pretty good merchandising range, and that funds us for admin and all the little things that we need.
So what sort of merchandise is it?
This is the Toganmain jumper I've got on. We've got Toganmain T-shirts. We've got camp mugs, coffee mugs. We've got our book. So a lady by the name of Lexi Keane rang. She said, oh, really, this is again from Landline, really would love to help. Don't know what I can do. I said, well, what's your skill set? She said, oh, I'm an author. And I went, oh, have I got the job for you? I said, I have got all these fabulous stories from all these shearers that ring me. It takes about an hour to talk to them. And I laugh so hard I forget to write it all down. I said, but if you could get their stories for me, we'd be so grateful. And after about the 8th interview, she said, there's a book in this. So she's put together a book called Toganmain From Then to Now, and it's just a fabulous read. It starts with Alexander McLean, who selected it when he was on his trip south with Charles Sturt originally, and then selling it on to Thomas Robertson, the Robertson years, and then the Armstrong years, and then from there to Twynham, and then from Twynham on to Macquarie Pastoral with them Paraway. And then there's a section on our group, and then she goes on to the shearer stories and the Rousey stories and the wool classes stories and some of the poems. There's lots of fabulous photographs in it. So it's just a really good read, and it's a great, fabulous thing to have, really.
Speaking of photographs, there's some lovely photographs that were taken with our story. So if you get the magazine, you can have a look at those. Now, what has to be done? Like what now? What is the priority now in terms of the continued restoration?
Well, we went out there, we were out there last weekend and we were shocked to discover the chimneys in the big hearth have deteriorated in a month, cracking badly. We've had to take one down just for safety reasons. We will put proper footings in and then we're going to rebuild it as it was. If we take it down, we get to keep the bricks and we rebuild with what was. We cannot let these collapse because then we'll lose all the bricks and the buildings will be partially destroyed as well. So, and the big hearth, there's no way you could rebuild it if you didn't take it down first because you wouldn't know how to rebuild it. And then on the northwestern side, it's very, very weather damaged. There's white ants have been in. There's a lot of work to be done there. That's something I've had a retired builder who's got heritage experience who's coming to have a look. And he said he should be able to talk us through as volunteers on how to rectify the problems. The chimneys and that's a professional job. We have a bricklayer who's also versed in heritage bricklaying, so we're lucky to have him, and he'll be doing the work on that with the help of another one of our committee members who's also is a bricklayer.
You must have learnt so much through this process.
Yeah. It's a fast learning curve, and I've had a go at glazing, not my thing. There's just so many different things that you look at, and every time you turn around, there's something new to learn and another bit of history to pick up as well.
So what is the ownership status now?
The Toganmain Woolshed Precinct Incorporated Committee has title to the land and the precinct, so there's about 6 acres there or 6 hectares, something like that, and that it just involves the precinct, the shearers' quarters, the shearing shed, and then the land towards the Sturt Highway. There's a caveat there that if something happened, either we walked away or something happened to the shed, then the land would be returned to Macquarie. But we've just learnt that Macquarie are putting all their properties up for sale, so I don't know where we sit with that. We only learnt that yesterday. So,
what do you see as being the long-term goal?
We have open days. We had one in March. We're having another one the 30th and 31st of August. And it's just an open day. Not everybody wants to volunteer, but a lot of people want to see the shed. So people will be able to come in and have a look, learn about it. Our aim is to get Toganmain so big that and out there that it can't fail, that people can't say, oh, well, it's not worth saving. We intend it to just keep working at it. It'll be a forever project. Somebody said to me, what are you going to do when it's finished? I said, I wouldn't have a clue. I'll be dead. Because it'll be just something that it's an ongoing thing, and we need to get younger people interested to take over when we are too old to take it on. We're lucky enough we do have a number of younger volunteers, so that's really good.
So long term, like, do you ever see it as being like a permanent museum, or?
That's what we'd like. We would like to be able to bring school groups out to learn all about it. Eventually, it would be great if we could sort of have something, you go to a shearing stand and you press a button and the shearing noise starts up and a shearer will tell you about his job. You go to the experts room, they will tell you what they did. The steam engine, if we have lucky enough to ever get a steam engine back.
You mentioned Shear Outback, of course. They do have those sorts of displays, don't they? So
yes,
I hope that they are helping you.
Oh no, they've been terrific. We work together. I motivate people to go on to Shear Outback, and they motivate people to come to us when we have an open day. So,
okay, what do you take away from this process? What do you think now?
A real sense of satisfaction, and it's wonderful to go out there now, and you can enjoy it more now because having it weatherproof and we've got it all clean and tidy out there. We don't have to walk into the shed and blow the grass out anymore. It's a much more enjoyable going out there because we've broken the back of that sort of hard work. The next sort of hard work is going to be in the preservation of the shed. A lot of the other stuff we can sort of just puddle along with. But the satisfaction of knowing you've been a part of a project this big that has saved something so iconic. The other part is the friendships we've made. It's just been fantastic, really.
Do you think what you've achieved could be a bit of a blueprint or a bit of a lesson for other communities? I wonder what we can learn from your experience.
It's a bit like eating an elephant. You do it in small bits. You've got to have a go. That's the main thing I'll probably say. You've got to have a go. Don't think you can't do it. Just assume that you can, because at least you know you tried. There'd be nothing worse than to lose it and I should have done something. That's the most important. Give it a go. If you don't succeed, well, you've lost nothing. You've gained a lot, but you'll be surprised at what you can achieve.
Sounds like really good advice for life generally, Christine, and possibly a good note to end on.
If you're ever in the area, give me a ring. If you can't make an open day, we'll try and work something out. I just want everybody to see it. Everybody should walk through it once.
Thanks so much, Christine, and all the best with the continued restoration.
No worries. Thank you, Terry.